The cold wind howled through the desolate monastery perched high in the Himalayas. The moon, a silver eye in the sky, illuminated the snow-covered cliffs where an ancient order had preserved the deepest spiritual secrets of humanity. Ethan Carter had no interest in spirituality. He was a war journalist, a man who had seen death, betrayal, and the darkest corners of human nature. But when an encrypted letter arrived at his doorstep bearing a strange symbol, his life took a turn he never expected. The world you know is an illusion. The truth has been hidden. If you seek answers, come to the monastery of the forgotten. Skepticism warred with curiosity. Ethan had spent years exposing government conspiracies and war crimes. Could this be another cover-up? Against all logic, he booked a flight to Nepal, driven by an inexplicable pull toward the unknown. The first sign, material detachment. As Ethan ascended the icy steps of the monastery, an old monk greeted him with a knowing smile. "Leave behind all that binds you," the monk said, pointing at Ethan's backpack. Inside were his phone, wallet, camera, everything that tethered him to his old world. With hesitation, he set them aside. A strange lightness filled his chest, but an eerie feeling crept over him. What was he getting into? The second sign, power of solitude. The monks led him into an ancient stone chamber, lit only by flickering candles. "You will remain here alone," the elder instructed. "In silence. The truth will whisper to you." Ethan scoffed but obeyed. As hours passed, unease clawed at him. He was always surrounded by the noise of war, chaos, and civilization. Now only his thoughts remained, restless, gnawing, inescapable. Then, a whisper echoed in the chamber. Not a sound, but a feeling, a presence lurking just beyond his awareness. He was not alone. The third sign, transforming shadows. Shadows danced along the walls, shifting unnaturally. His heart pounded. The candlelight flickered, and suddenly, he saw her. A woman standing in the darkness. Sophie, his fiancée, dead for 5 years. A casualty of war. Ethan gasped, stumbling back. "This isn't real." "It is real, Ethan." Sophie's voice was hauntingly soft. "You carry your pain like a weapon. It has shaped you, but it has also caged you." The room twisted, the walls closing in. Memories flooded his mind. The explosion, the blood, the unbearable guilt. He had never faced it. He had buried it. "Face your shadows," the voice whispered, "or they will consume you." Ethan fell to his knees. He had always run from pain, drowning it in work, in anger. But here, in this cold, sacred place, he saw the truth. His pain was his prison. The fourth sign, forgiveness. Tears burned his eyes. "I should have saved you, Sophie." Her apparition knelt before him, her fingers ghosting over his cheek. "Forgiveness is not given, it is taken. Forgive yourself, Ethan. Only then can you be free." A deep sob tore through him, and in that moment, something broke. A weight lifted, and for the first time in years, Ethan breathed without chains. The fifth sign, trusting life's flow. The shadows receded. Sophie's figure faded, replaced by the warm glow of candlelight. The walls of the chamber seemed to widen, the air clearer. The elder monk reappeared, as if he had always been there. "You are beginning to understand. Surrender, and the path will reveal itself." Ethan exhaled. For the first time, he wasn't trying to control everything. He wasn't fighting the unknown. He was simply being. But the moment of peace shattered. A distant rumble shook the monastery. The monks turned their heads toward the entrance. Something was coming, and it was not of this world. The ground trembled beneath Ethan's feet. The distant rumble grew louder, vibrating through the ancient stone walls of the monastery. The monks remained still, their faces unreadable, as if they had been expecting this. Ethan's pulse quickened. What the hell was happening? "Come," the elder monk said, turning toward a hidden passage behind the chamber. "It is time you see the truth." Ethan hesitated, his journalistic instincts screaming that he was in the middle of something far bigger than he had anticipated. But there was no turning back. The passage was dark, winding deep beneath the monastery. Cold, Damp air wrapped around them like unseen fingers. The walls were carved with symbols. Ancient, unreadable, but strangely familiar. Then they reached it. A massive underground chamber, its ceiling lost in darkness. At the center stood a colossal stone tablet, glowing faintly with golden inscriptions. "This is why you were called here," the elder said. Ethan approached cautiously. The inscriptions seemed to shift before his eyes, the letters rearranging themselves into words he could suddenly understand. And what he read sent a chill down his spine. The sixth sign, spiritual resilience. Humanity has been deceived. The world you see is a veil. Beyond it lies the truth, hidden for centuries. Ethan's breath hitched. He had spent years uncovering lies, but this was something else. "What does it mean?" he asked, his voice hoarse. The monk's eyes were solemn. "The material world is an illusion, a construct designed to keep humanity asleep. But there are those who awaken, those strong enough to see beyond the deception. They are tested, broken, and reforged. You are one of them, Ethan." Ethan clenched his fists. He didn't believe in destiny. But the visions, the voices, the unexplainable pull that had brought him here. Could it all be coincidence? A sudden roar echoed through the chamber. The ground split apart as something massive emerged from the darkness. The seventh sign, the power of giving. It was not human. A towering entity, wrapped in shadows, its eyes burning like molten gold. Ethan felt an instinctive, primal terror. But the monks didn't run. Instead, they bowed. "It is the guardian," the elder whispered. "It protects the truth. But only those who prove themselves may pass." The creature's gaze locked onto Ethan. A deep, guttural voice rumbled through the chamber. "You seek knowledge, but knowledge demands sacrifice." Ethan's mouth went dry. "What kind of sacrifice?" The guardian stretched out a clawed hand. In its palm, two objects appeared. One, a small golden sphere, radiating warmth and light. Two, a dagger, its blade dark and ancient. "Choose," the guardian commanded. "Take the light, and you shall receive power. Take the blade, and you shall give of yourself to something greater." Ethan's mind raced. The sphere called to him, promising knowledge, strength, an escape from the chaos of his past. But the dagger, it felt right. He exhaled and reached for the blade. The chamber shook violently. The guardian let out an ear-piercing roar, but it wasn't anger. It was acknowledgement. The monks chanted in unison as a blinding white light engulfed Ethan. His body felt weightless, as if the very fabric of reality was shifting around him. When the light faded, the guardian was gone. But the knowledge had been unlocked. The eighth sign, ancestral healing. Ethan stumbled, his head spinning. Images flooded his mind, visions of ancient civilizations, lost knowledge, and his own ancestors. He saw their struggles, their fears, the patterns that had shaped his very existence. "You are not merely an individual, Ethan," the elder monk said. "You are a continuation of those who came before you. Their wounds are your wounds. Their wisdom, your wisdom. Only by understanding the past can you change the future." Ethan's heart pounded. The trauma he carried, the battles he fought, it had never been just his. It was a cycle passed down for generations. And now he had the power to break it. But before he could speak, the chamber shuddered violently. A deep, menacing voice echoed from the darkness. "He knows too much. He must not leave this place." The monks froze. Fear flickered across their faces. The true enemy had awakened, and it was coming for him. The air grew heavy, thick with an unseen force pressing down on Ethan's chest. The monks stood frozen, their eyes filled with a fear he hadn't seen before. "Who's coming?" Ethan demanded, his voice barely steady. The elder monk clenched his fists. "The keepers of the veil." A low rumble vibrated through the chamber. The ground split apart, releasing a surge of dark mist. From its depths they emerged, figures wrapped in flowing black cloaks, their faces obscured, yet their presence radiated an unnatural power. The air around them distorted, as if reality itself was warping to accommodate their existence. He cannot be allowed to leave. One of them hissed, its voice like 1,000 whispers at once. The knowledge he carries threatens the balance. Ethan staggered back, gripping the dagger he had chosen from the Guardian. The weight of it felt different now, alive, as if it knew what was coming. "Why do you fear the truth?" Ethan asked, forcing himself to stand tall. One of the figures tilted its head, as if amused. "Because truth is chaos, and chaos cannot be controlled." The ninth sign, awakening to a greater purpose. Ethan's mind raced. Every instinct told him to run, but something inside him had changed. The visions, the knowledge, the very fabric of his existence had shifted. He wasn't just here for a story anymore. He was here to tear down the illusion. "You think I'm the threat?" Ethan said, gripping the dagger. "I think you're afraid. Afraid that people will wake up." The shadows twisted, coiling like living serpents. "You do not understand what you are up against, mortal. You are a flickering light in an endless void." The elder monk stepped forward, his voice calm yet commanding. "He is more than that." The monks began to chant, their voices rising in unison. Symbols on the stone tablet blazed to life, casting golden light across the chamber. The shadows recoiled, screeching in pain. Ethan felt something awaken within him, a presence, a force that had been dormant for centuries. "You were never meant to be ordinary, Ethan," the elder whispered. "You were chosen." The keepers lunged. Dark tendrils lashed through the air, aiming straight for Ethan's heart. But as they struck, the dagger erupted in light. A massive shockwave blasted through the chamber. The shadows howled, their forms unraveling as Ethan unleashed the energy within him. The 10th sign, spiritual interconnection. Time slowed. Ethan saw everything. The fabric of reality itself peeled away, revealing the vast, infinite web connecting all things. Every soul, every thought, every moment in history, woven into a single, interconnected flow of existence. The keepers were not just enemies. They were part of the same system, bound by the same illusion. "You are prisoners," Ethan whispered, realization crashing over him. "Just like us." The shadows hesitated. For the first time, something human flickered beneath their dark forms. A hint of regret, of longing. But before Ethan could speak again, the chamber collapsed. Stone crumbled, the ancient walls giving way as the forces of light and darkness clashed in an apocalyptic surge. The monks vanished into the light. The keepers faded into the abyss. And Ethan fell. The last thing he heard was a whisper, drifting through the void. "The final truth awaits." Darkness. Silence. Ethan drifted in a void, weightless, untethered. His body felt like it was dissolving into the nothingness around him. He had fallen, yet he hadn't hit the ground. "Am I dead?" The question echoed in his mind. But then, a light. It was faint at first, a single glowing thread weaving through the abyss. Then another, and another. Soon, an entire web of light spread before him, stretching into infinity. It pulsed, alive, breathing like a cosmic heartbeat. "This is the final truth," a voice whispered. Ethan turned. Before him stood a woman, cloaked in shimmering silver. Her eyes held galaxies, and when she spoke, her voice resonated in his very soul. "Who are you?" Ethan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I am the keeper of the final truth," she replied. "And you, Ethan Walker, have seen beyond the illusion." Memories flooded his mind. The signs, the hidden knowledge, the battle against the keepers of the veil. He had been searching for the ultimate truth. But now, standing on the edge of the unknown, he realized the truth had been searching for him. The illusion of reality. "Everything you know is a lie." The woman's words sent a chill through him. "The world you live in, your struggles, your victories, your losses, it is all part of a carefully crafted illusion. A prison without walls." Ethan's heartbeat pounded. "Who built it?" The woman raised her hand, and the web of light shifted. The strands rearranged themselves, revealing flashes of history. Empires rising and falling, wars fought over false gods, civilizations manipulated like pieces on a chessboard. There are those who profit from the illusion, those who ensure humanity never awakens to its true power. The keepers of the veil were only enforcers. The real architects hide in the shadows, controlling the flow of reality itself. Ethan's breath caught. Then how do we stop them? The woman's expression softened. You already have. The web of light shimmered, and Ethan saw himself. Every step he had taken, every challenge he had faced, every truth he had uncovered. It had already begun unraveling the illusion. The moment he had dared to question reality, the prison had begun to crack. The moment a mind awakens, the woman said, the illusion weakens, and when enough awaken, the entire system will collapse. A deep understanding settled within Ethan. This wasn't about one hero defeating the enemy. It was about every soul breaking free. The final choice. A doorway appeared, a glowing portal leading back to his world. Now you must choose, the woman said. Return, and carry this truth with you. Spread it. Ignite the fire in others. But know this, once you see the truth, you can never unsee it. You will forever be hunted. Ethan clenched his fists. He had spent his life chasing stories, mysteries, hidden knowledge. But this was the greatest discovery of all. And he couldn't keep it to himself. I choose to return. The woman smiled, her form beginning to dissolve into the light. Then go, walker of truth. The world is waiting. Ethan stepped forward, and the universe shattered around him. The awakening. Gasping, Ethan's eyes flew open. He was lying on the cold stone floor of the ancient monastery. Sunlight filtered through the ruined ceiling, dust swirling in golden beams. The monks were gone. The keepers were gone. But the tablet remained. Ethan staggered to his feet. His body ached, but his mind burned with clarity. The knowledge was still there. Every truth, every secret, every hidden thread of reality. A sound echoed from outside. Voices. He turned to see men in black suits stepping through the rubble, their faces unreadable. They carried no weapons, but their presence was a threat in itself. One of them, an older man with piercing gray eyes, spoke first. Mr. Walker, you've seen too much. Ethan smiled. For the first time in his life, he wasn't afraid. No, he said, stepping past them into the sunlight. I've finally seen enough. And as he walked away, the illusion of the world began to crumble.